Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we'll talk about inline edits and copilot chat. So while using GitHub Copilot, we have a feature where we can ask question with respect to our files, even particular lines. So in case we have a line where we want to understand or edit, we could just select the line or a particular part of code base and then ask questions about it or modify the code base. Whereas in Copilot chat, we have a different section where we open a chat window and ask questions with respect to our code in that particular window. I'll take an example of a real code base. So as you can see in my VS Code, I have a shell script open. Now, in case we have to use inline chat, I'll select the particular function or particular line and just run Control I. We can also do uh, we can also select the particular part of code base and then right click on it and then open inline chat. There are different options which we can do. For example, slash commands slash I could also ask a question about what I wanted to do. For example, explain this. So in the auto mode, uh, it will take the prompt. Okay. And then my model that is selected is GPT 5.3 codex. So I've mentioned that I explain this code. So now what it has given that compares this particular function compares to semantic versioning strings and return success when the first line is less than second. I could accept it or rephrase it or maybe ask further question based on the response. So this particular feature is called as inline edit. And secondly, there's something called as copilot chat. So on the right side, as you can see in my VS Code, you can also see different older chat sessions which are opened. For example, these are the chat sessions which I have opened. I can also ask a new chat on what I wanted to do. So I'll explain this in more detail in some time. And then we'll go back to our slide. So what is the difference between inline edit and copilot chat? The first difference is in terms of purpose. So in case you want to do any quick code editing and transformation directly in the editor, we use inline edit. Whereas in case we wanted to do a conversational assistant like a complex question and for a coding help in multiple files. Primarily use of inline edit is that it can edit in the single file that is opened in the editor. Whereas in Copilot chat, it primarily focus on one or more files. So interaction style. In terms of interaction style, the inline code suggestion via prompt or existing code. So we basically, as we have seen, we do Control I, select the particular piece of code base and ask question accordingly. Whereas in Copilot chat, we ask question in term form of chat based form. So I can ask question and get answers with respect to chat I've given. Input method. So we basically, as I mentioned in the demo earlier, we use Control I to open inline chat or right click and then open inline chat. Whereas in Copilot chat mode, we have a separate window where we can ask questions on the chat panel. In terms of output, suggested code, for example, as we can see, I've asked for the explanation of the code base, or we can also see or suggest the code replacement or refactor the code right inside the file. In Copilot chat, the output is basically the explanation of the code example, documentation, and debugging. We can ask questions with respect to our code base, which can help in debugging the code, write documentation, and explain the code. So context that inline edit uses is the selected code base. So whatever code I've selected, so it takes it as a context and then provides response based on that. Whereas in Copilot chat, it works across the whole workspace or project. So it's not just tied up to a one single file where it can have multiple files to be taken into consideration. Now, very important topic. Why? What are the different use cases? When should we use inline edit and Copilot chat? So we should use inline edits whenever we are trying to refactor a file, rewriting, optimizing, or adding any functionality to the existing code. Right? And this holds good only in terms of a single file. And whenever you want to learn, understand, debug, or generate new code in terms of multiple files or complete code base, so where our prompt will touch multiple files and write code for us in multiple files. So that's how it is important that we use Copilot chat. I'll come back again to my VS Code ID and talk about different Copilot chat options. So on the Copilot chat window, we can also see different options here. For example, ask, plan, and agent. The use of these three modes is different, and the use cases are also different. We also see the model that we wanted to select while giving our prompt. It's recommended to use auto, as auto takes the optimal token usage. Whereas if we have a very specific requirement in terms of higher models, for example, Opus 4.8 or Gemini 2.4 or any other model, we could also select the particular model and ask our query. Okay. So ask is something which is very specific to asking something about the code base. So ask should be used only when we have to get some information about the code base. For example, explain the code base, explain the particular function, explain the particular file. So it is limited to just explanation and it will not try to add any code base in the file. So code base editing is not an use case here. Now, ask mode, as I mentioned, it's only specific to asking certain questions with respect to code base. Then we have plan mode. Plan mode basically is used to plan things in case you wanted to plan a particular complex task. So it is not advisable to directly go and then start editing the complex task. It is always advisable to use a plan mode that you get a plan. Once you get a plan, you should also always review the plan. And in case you think the plan is fine, you can go ahead with the plan. Whereas in case you think the plan is not correct, you could further iterate the plan and get the proper working plan that is required. And then finally comes the agent mode. So I'll also give a demo about agent mode. Uh, but maybe let's go back to the slides and then understand the use cases. When do we need ask mode, when do we need plan mode, and when do we need agent mode? So ask is basically used to ask a very natural language questions related to your code. And Copilot will respond based on the current context of your code. So for example, I am new to code and I want to understand what does this function do and how can I optimize this code. So these are basic examples I can use while using ask mode. And also what is this error and what uh, can I do? I mean, how do I write particular function of code? So it will not help us in writing the code, but it will help us just in understanding the code base. So to understand the surrounding code and give the context aware answers. So it is great for learning, debugging, and review unfamiliar code, but not for writing the code. So now we'll come to plan mode. So whenever we have some complex task where the result requires multiple iterations or require multiple steps to be followed in order to generate the response, so we use plan mode. So instead of immediately generating code, it will break down the problem that we have into multiple subtasks or sub problems, and then outline the steps or architecture that is required to solve that problem. It will suggest you different approaches and then tries to do different trades-offs and design decisions. Whenever it has questions, it can also ask clarifying questions. For example, in case I have to design a scalable notification system, so plan mode will outline component queues, database schema, extra, and all the required steps to implement this. But it will not implement any coding or it will not start editing file on the go. Now, when to use and when not to use plan mode. So complex features or systems. Whenever we have any complex features or systems, and we don't know what to do in this case, and we also wanted to review because the other mode, which I'll come in some time, which is agentic mode, it requires a bit complex understanding, and it will not ask for any review. I mean, it will basically implementation side. It will not ask for any review, but yeah, we have to be very careful while using that. So whenever you are not sure on how to approach a problem, right? You just have a problem, you don't know how to solve it. You just use plan mode, and then plan mode will guide you on what should be the proper solution to the problem. In case you are satisfied with the solution, you accept it and start implementation. But in case you have further question or you want to iterate particular problem or particular solution given by copilot, you can do that. In case the solution you wanted to do refactoring, you can also refactor by asking questions again, cross questions, and then redesign if something is not correct in the solution. So in case there are very large concepts or complex concepts, right? So we can use plan mode to explore them, and it is good to use plan mode while navigating in the large code base. So now when not to use plan mode, we should skip it when we don't need it. I mean, when a quick function call understanding small function fixes and small boilerplate code. So we should not use plan mode for that. We should ideally try to use inline copilot edits, which is the most optimal way of using copilot. So now comes the agent mode. So agent mode is one of the very advanced topics of AI. Then agent mode is optimized for making autonomous edits across multiple files in your project. So in case I have a complex task, so I can ask my copilot agent to solve that problem for me, and it is not limited just to modifying or editing our files, but it could also perform a real-time uh, compiling and then running the program for you. It could also create files, generate Python-based environments. For example, we generate Python-based environments while running a Python program in our VS Code, right? In that case, it will also create a Python environment for you. This is particularly useful for a complex task that require a lot of code edits, but also the invocation of tools and commands. So a lot of tools can be invoked using agent mode, not just writing the code. So, for example, benefits also I'll talk about in case I want to refactor part of a code base, such as, for example, refactoring an app to use Redis cache. So this requires changes in multiple places and also multiple invocation of tools or commands just to ensure that the solution implemented by agent is fine. So it could run all of them together. For example, adding a login form to app to use OAuth for authentication. This is one example where agent mode can be used. The problem with the agent mode is that it will take large number of AI credits. So this is as on 2026 July I'm talking. So now the GitHub Copilot has this AI credit based billing. So agent mode is quite expensive, and then it is it should only be used when it is really required, because we really wanted to do certain tasks which cannot be done using edit mode. But yeah, this is quite expensive way of doing things, and it is more the autonomous way of doing things. So now a quick decision guide on when to use what. So for example, if you are learning, exploring, or asking why, how, you should always use cast mode. So whenever you wanted to think through a solution before jumping into writing code, you always use plan mode. In case you have a complex problem and then you don't want right away to jump into the problem, but you wanted to review the solution that AI will use to implement this, so you can always use plan mode, and it is kind of a perfect way of using. You should always solve the bigger problems using plan mode. And then finally we have this agent mode, which is one very good way of doing, but it's a bit complex and also expensive way of doing things. It uses most of the AI credits in this, and it should only be used when we wanted AI GitHub Copilot to perform certain set of actions or apply logic across your repositories. In that case, we should be using agent mode. So I'll select ask mode for now and give some example. So I have selected ask mode, and then the prompt or context that I have is basically the size file, right? Now I can ask question about it. Explain the file. So it understand the context as size versions filter.sh, and as I've used ask mode, so it will try to explain the contents of this file, what basically this file is doing. So this explanation will be given by this. So as you can see, it has given the explanation on what this file will do as functionality, and total 9.8 credits are used in this analysis. So now I'll go to plan mode, and then I'll plan for some bigger task. Can you add exceptions to this, and also write this file such that it is very good, it follows coding best practices. It is always advisable to use auto mode. So I've given a prompt that it has to plan based on the this prompt. So can you add exception to this and also write a file that allows coding best practices? So it is trying to review it now. And as I've explained before, the plan mode will basically try to provide me a plan on what can be done to achieve this particular prompt. So basically, as you can see, it has given me a plan. What kind of exceptions should be added to this script? So it has not directly gone and then added these exceptions. Instead, what it has done, it has given me the different possible exceptions that can come while writing. And then it is asking me basically whether I wanted to provide moderate, minimal, or full rewrite. So I'll just give my submission. And it is further reiterating if something can be performed in a better way. And then finally, once the planning is done, it will ask me for an explanation. Yeah. So as we can see, it has now started implementation. It has asked me to, it has given me a plan, and then further, once it has given me plan, it will ask me to implement. So I'll start implementation. Now, when I start implementation, as you can see, it went to the agent mode. So based on the plan it has given in the past, it will go back and understand that plan and further start implementation of the plan that it has given. Right? So it is basically generating now all the code base. As you can see, yeah. So these many lines it has added. So as you can see, the quality of code, right? I'll just keep this for now. As we have mentioned in past, right? It can also run your file, but as I'm in Windows environment, I cannot run directly this shell script in my Windows. But yeah, there are ways to run it, but I will not run it directly. So I've skipped that thing. And as you can see, the file, there are various best practices added. I mean, it has given options to include a file or define a threshold. A lot of things it has given, even the usage it has shown. And also, while implementation, it has also given me different function checks and then uh, error handling mechanisms. So this covers basically your ask, plan, and agent mode. Thank you, everyone.